Ajay, hi, good morning. Good to have you on the show. In these challenging times, what's been your outlook on growth, especially in the light of the rising commodity prices? Because that continues to be a worry across sectors.
Yes, indeed, these are challenging times as we go through this second wave of COVID-19. While it has an impact in terms of disrupting the economic activities, and couple that with now we also have the rising commodity prices over the last several months. What we have been seeing now, though, is that the demand outlook from an end market perspective continues to be quite good, and we are very optimistic and positive about the demand recovery and continuation. How do we deal with the commodity prices? Clearly, it's a challenging time in terms of increasing prices. So we are doing few things here. One, clearly where needed, we are making those selective pricing adjustments, which are tactical, in order to counter the commodity prices. Number two, we have a pretty matured and a robust cost management process internally to manage our material and other costs. And a combination of these two, we believe will help us counter the commodity inflation that we are experiencing. On the outlook for the rest of the year, as I said, when you look at the profile of our businesses, it's more like a portfolio for us. So there are power generation products we have, industrial segments, as well as our services and distribution business. So that provides us a fairly balanced portfolio in order for us to manage the cyclicality of economic cycles.
Sure. Ajay, also wanted to understand that there's been a weaker than expected export growth, which has also hurt you this quarter. Do you sense that long logistics, lead time and costs are going to continue to impact exports going forward as well?
Yes, I mean, export, as you would know, has some bit of cyclicality. I mean, when you see the calendar year Q4, which is Q3 from India fiscal, is generally the strongest in terms of how we have seen it historically. And therefore, in the current quarter, we definitely have a softer performance on the export side. But when I look at the demand situation, when I look at how the end markets are recovering, I feel fairly positive about the exports picking up. Obviously, we'll have to continue to see the supply chain situation. The logistics is improving. There are still disruptions, no doubt. But overall, I think from an exports perspective, the end markets are looking up. As you would see across the world, the markets are picking up. I mean, in terms of when I look at the North American market or European or Middle East Africa market, those markets we are seeing a fairly good pickup in demand. And APAC continues to have a steady and rising demand outlook.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Patil. Now, understandably, at a time like this, you've provided no guidance for FY22 due to the near-term uncertainty on account of the second wave and the virus disruptions. When do you think that you'd be confident enough to provide a guidance so that you see things stabilizing?
I would say we would certainly, love to provide a guidance. In my mind, if we continue to see a fairly a stable outlook for a couple of quarters, that will allow us to provide a guidance from a revenue perspective, from a full year point of view, or from a quarter perspective as well.
Okay. And the domestic market as well, that has seen a sharp drop in demand. What is the outlook on your sectoral performance, power gen, industrials as sectors, and how do you see your overall domestic growth shaping up?
Okay, so when you look at, let's say, starting with power generation, clearly from an end market perspective, as I said earlier, infrastructure, data center, healthcare, to some extent manufacturing and rental, these are really the segments which continue to provide a fairly good demand outlook. The sectors which are showing a signs of recovery are clearly with respect to commercial reality, residential. Those are the end markets or segments which are showing signs of revival. On the industrial side, clearly what we have been seeing on the back of the infrastructure spending, our construction compressor continues to have quarter on quarter, year on year, pretty good growth rates. Similarly, some of the other subsegments, be it railways or mining, are showing a good promise in terms of demand outlook for the coming quarter as well as for rest of the year. And our services and distribution business continues to have a fairly stable outlook for the quarter as well as for rest of the year.
Mr. Patil, how do you see the second wave impacting the company? When we take a look at some of the challenges around the supply chain, for example, whether or not they've been ironed out, any update on the supply of electronics?
Yeah, clearly, I think the second wave, because of just the scale and the breadth and the speed with which the second wave kind of spread out throughout the country, has certainly had an impact on the supply chain. Not only when you look at the entire supply chain from a customer as well as to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 supplier perspective, definitely those got impacted with the rising rate of infection, which resulted into absenteeism and disrupting the manufacturing operations for us as well as for our supply chain partners. With the inflation over the infection, over the last 2 to 3 weeks, we are seeing a declining trend. That is one. Two, the rate of vaccination, although it's slow, is picking up, and it's kind of quite broad-based throughout the country. So when you take these two things together, I do believe that the supply chain disruption that we had experienced, especially in the later part of April and the entire month of May, would start to stabilize as we step into June, and would stabilize towards the end of June or early part of July. And obviously, from our perspective, our operations got disrupted to a large extent. But as we speak, our plant operations are operating. They are no doubt not at the same level of capacity utilization what we had in the prior quarter. But every passing day, our capacities are coming back step by step.
Let's talk about your approach to technology as well. You're at the forefront when it comes to digital evolution and technology. How do you look to pivot in order to take advantage of this when it comes to new product launches as well?
No, absolutely. I mean, we continue to have probably what we think a best-in-class technology in terms of all our product offerings. As you would know, that the emission standards are the key milestones which determine the extent of technology that gets introduced in the market. So for our power gen, we have CPCB 4+. These are the milestone emission standards which will come into force sometime in the near future. We believe that's a good point for us to showcase our technology capability. Having said, we continue to have product launches and product upgrades as part of our continuous product development initiative. What we have been clearly seeing is a shift when we are looking at from a mechanical to electronic engine. And with the kind of technology access that we have, the kind of on-ground technology resources that we have, and the world-class manufacturing capability that we have, clearly we believe that we will continue to lead the market in terms of our technology and product offerings.
Sure. What then is the message that you want to give out to your shareholders watching this interview?
Yeah, clearly what we would like to assure our shareholders as well as investors and other stakeholders is that we continue to have our number one priority is safety and security of our employees, and therefore that's a number one priority. Number two, all our plant operations continue to operate in a safer environment. On a capacity side, clearly as we see every passing week, we are seeing our capacities are slowly and steadily rising. And we feel fairly optimistic that in a span of coming few weeks, we will be in a position to get ourselves to the level of capacity operation that we were, let's say, before the second wave hit us.
Okay, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much, Ajay, for highlighting how your quarter has been and, of course, what's the outlook going forward.